Do 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 do. People have been screaming at me for videos on metaphysics, and well, great. Let me, since metaphysics, and I'm not interested in religion at all. Religion, of course, is secularized metaphysics for the profane. I'm going to give you a primary example of really why I absolutely can't stand religion. And no, I'm not an atheist, by the way, not at all. Specifically in reference to Buddhism, but of course, we have to be really specific. I've been translating ancient Pali, the texts of original Buddhism, now for nearly 20 years, and the term Buddhism didn't even exist until several centuries ago. The only time the founder of said following, and not a religion, called it something was Samyutta Nikaya 5.4. He called it Brahmayana, specifically, or Path of the Absolute. But on some certain aspects of religion which I have no interest in, everything either falls apart completely or it's held together. Kind of like a primary example would be Christianity. Resurrection, did it occur or did it not occur? I'm not interested in answering that question at all, but Buddhism specifically, in just referencing Buddhism, has one word upon which the entire definition therein either falls apart or, it stays together. And that term in Pali is anatta. In Sanskrit, the term is anatman. It is unfortunately the case that I'm trying to figure out the best way to approach this because I'm an expert on this topic. I'm actually not an expert on the topic of anatta. I am literally the world's foremost expert on this one word. And I know that sounds really egotistical, but I'm going to explain it to you. And by the way, I have an article in a link below that I wrote. I think it's 14 pages long with lots of citations. It is an extremely well put together article. If you'd like to read it, it's absolutely irrefutable. It's ironclad. It's airtight. Please feel free to download it and read it. The link is below. I'm going to give you a quote from, by the way, those yellow-robed guys in Ceylon, Thailand, Burma, Laos, those are called Theravadins. The Theravadins came from a nihilistic sect called Sarvastivadins. So really, the term Sarvastivada is Sarvastivada, which means this is all there is ism. Specifically, it's nihilistic. It means atomism. In other words, there is a liberation, but nobody that attains it. There is nirvana, but no entity that actually attains it, ab extra to the psychophysical. Let me give you a quote from a Theravadin person. The renowned Theravadin materialist Nyanataloka said, quote, "Thus with this doctrine of selflessness, or anatta, stands or falls the entire structure of Buddhism." He's correct on that. All those yellow-robed guys that I referred to, i.e. the Theravadins, and most Mahayanists today deny that Buddhism taught that there was a soul or that it was the refuge. However, doctrinally, in all religious debates are sola scriptura, which means you actually have to have a reference in doctrine to actually intelligently discuss them. In other words, my commentary, your commentary, someone else's commentary is completely irrelevant to discussing the topic, but there are 662 occurrences of that term. I have a search engine for ancient Pali, which has been a dead language now for well nigh 2,000 years. There is nowhere within doctrine a denial of the soul. It is literally called the only refuge. It's called the charioteer. Atta hiyatananati kohi nato perasiya atta vasarati. Atta sarana anana sarana. The soul is charioteer. The soul is the refuge. There is no other refuge. The soul is the light, the soul is eternal, on and on and on. But there's this neat term that Buddhists, which of course Buddhism is a religious structure, but originally it was a neo-Sramanic movement to reestablish the Sanatana Dharma, which actually Indians would call it Sanatana Dharma, of even back in Gautama's time, Siddhartha Gautama, roughly 600 BCE, like 2,600 years ago. Essentially, everything had already fallen apart even back then. He had actually tried to reestablish that. But when you actually talk about the term Atman, or the Aten, and by the way, we actually have the same term in English. The root is Aten, and that same term is also the exact same term in ancient Egyptian, the same in Pali and Sanskrit and ancient Egyptian, the solar self. In English we have atmosphere, we talk about the moving of winds, but we're talking about the pneumatic principle, literally the animus, or the spiritus sanctum, as we would have in Latin. But when you actually talk about the Atman, the response you'll get 100% of the time, and this is why I can't stand religion, because religion is secular BS for unintelligent fools. Well, Buddhism denied the soul. This is why we have the doctrine of anatta. And I've literally debated people for like 20 years now. And I really do mean this literally, not egotistically. I am the world's foremost expert on this topic. I have debated and destroyed the best minds who think they're the best minds on this topic. I said, listen, let's stick to doctrine here. There is nowhere a denial of the soul anywhere within doctrine. There's no such thing as a doctrine of anatta or an atman. There are many, many things that are called anatta: rupa anatta, veda anatta, sana anatta, sankara anatta, isokaya namisata. To deny ABC, XY as not being X or not the soul is not a denial of the soul. That would be a fallacy of composition. If I said this is not an elephant, 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 I'm not denying an elephant. This is a neti-neti, a via negativa, an apophatic methodology for subjective synthesis, which is what the Greeks would call theurgy, through objective negation. This is not the soul, that's not the soul. That is not a denial of the soul. This is common apophaticism, Greek neti-neti, true Indian theurgy, okay, for subjective assimilation. This is literally the methodology, not empirical acknowledgement that this isn't the soul, that isn't the soul, but is actually used as a premise or springboard for Indian theurgy. Of course, in the Indian, they would call it neti-neti, or the via negativa, the apophaticism that the Greeks referred to. There is nowhere a denial of the soul anywhere within Buddhist doctrine. Absolutely nowhere is there a denial of the soul. Absolutely nowhere. Well, that's eternalism. Actually, specifically, since I translate ancient Pali and been doing so now for decades, the term is sasaravada, which literally is hard to translate, but it's translated often as eternalism, but what it should be translated as perpetualism. The opposite or antinomy is sasaravada is uchiravada, which is correctly translated as nihilism. But sasaravada is literally karma yoga, which is what is practiced by most Indians today. Sasaravada doesn't mean eternalism. Sasaravada in doctrine, and you can look at the article in the link below that I wrote where I talk about, actually I don't talk about eternalism in that article, but I can post that one for you. Speaks about there is no end to becoming. In other words, the only thing you can do is to perform better deeds for a better life, or better next life. It is literally perpetualism. It is literally karma yoga. And karma yoga is the antithesis of transcendence, fundamentally the neo-Brahmanic movement that we call Buddhism. And like I said, the term Buddhism didn't even exist until a few hundred years ago. There's no such thing as Buddhism. And also, too, when you talk to unintelligent people, of which there are so many, because anybody that's in a religion, I hate to insult you, is by definition unintelligent. Well, that's Hinduism, you know. Buddhism taught that there was no soul. I was like, what are you talking about Hinduism, girlfriend? There's no such thing as Hinduism. Hinduism doesn't refer to a religion, it refers to a people. Let me give you a few quotes from encyclopedias. This is from Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics. Hinduism has never prepared a body of canonical scripture or a common prayer book. On and on. Let me go to another passage. The word, the word Hinduism comes from the word Sindhu, the Indo-Aryan word for sea, came to apply to a peoples in the region east of the Indus Valley. The word Hinduism has no connection to any specific religion at all, but to a people and an area, blah, 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 blah. That's from Deshmukh, religion in Vedic culture. There's no such thing as a religion of Hinduism. Okay? There is no such thing as a Hinduism religion. Well, sure, I hear all the time about Hindu. There's no such thing as a religion of Hinduism. Hindu refers to a people, not to a religion, not to Dvaita Vedanta or Advaita Vedanta, Sanatana Dharma of any sort of specific metaphysical slant, whether it be Jainism, Buddhism, or anything else. There's no such thing as Hinduism. This does not refer to a religion at all. There's no such thing as a corpus. Well, the Vedas are Hinduism. No. No. The Vedas are not Hinduism. Well, sure they are. You know, my cousin across the street's a Hindu, and he reads the Vedas. The Upanishads, the principal Upanishads, are not Hinduism. Advaita Vedanta isn't Hinduism. Dvaita Vedanta isn't. There's no such thing as a religion of Hinduism. So when you actually talk and debate with these unintelligent idiot Buddhists, and that is what they are. Well, that's Hinduism, Buddhism denied the soul. I said, where within doctrine, my unintelligent little cockroach, does Buddhism deny the soul? Since I've been translating ancient Pali now for nigh of 20 years, and I know every occurrence, of which there are 662. Thank you so very much, PTSD for, Polytext Society, not PTSD like a psychological thing. Polytext Society, it's a digital dictionary. You can actually look. 662 occurrences of the term. There is nowhere a denial of the Atman. It is literally via negativa. It's apophaticism for subjective synthesis. I'd really like you to download the article that I wrote below. It's extremely pithy. I completed it ages ago. It's a really, really good read. And if you read that, you'll be smarter than 100% of every Buddhist that's out there. There's no such thing as a religion of Hinduism. This notion that Buddhism was some sort of soul-denying religion of ethics and morality has absolutely no basis in doctrine. None. The one thing that actually all religions do have in common is that when you get into a debate, well, is this true or is that true? Doctrine is always the point of reference. Specifically, regarding the Nikayas, they are pre-sectarian. The Digha, Majjhima, Samyutta, and Gotara Kudaku Nikaya. They're actually mentioned in ancient Brahmi on the 13th pillar edict of King Ashok, or in English we call him King Ashoka. And in ancient Brahmi it talks about the Panch Nikaya, or the 5 Nikayas. These predate all sectarian schisms, Mahayanism, Sarvastivadins, who later became the Theravadins. The Theravadins are all those yellow-robed monks wandering around Ceylon, Southeast Asia, Burma, Laos, Thailand, yada, yada, yada. Those are the primary espousers of this nihilistic no-soul nonsense, which has absolutely no basis whatsoever doctrinally within the 5 Nikayas. Absolutely none. Absolutely none. And of course, I know every passage that they'll cite to you to try to presume this, say, well, all Sarvabhidharma anatta. Well, I explain that one here. And I give a citation, hyperlogical. What they actually think Sabhidhamma means is completely illogical and has no basis in doctrine or common sense or even simplex logic. This is why metaphysics is so important. You would think, and I did this ages ago, and of course Wikipedia is one of the most evil effing websites on the internet. Since I am literally the world's foremost expert on the definition, the occurrence of the term anatta or anatman in Sanskrit, you would think that I would be perfect for writing the article for anatta on Wikipedia. But each time I would actually, like book and verse, citation, boom, boom, I give the Romanized Pali, hyperlogical, evidence, fact, citation, citation, citation. Oh, no, because these mentally sick weirdos that are caught up in this, modern Buddhism has no connection to the original article. Very famously, Dr. Ananda Kichush Kumaraswamy said, let me quote him, it's a very brilliant quote. Modern Buddhism is famous for everything it originally never taught. Anyway, getting back to Wikipedia, or as I call it, Suckopedia, I actually provided a long, nice passage, with endless citations galore. No, that can't stand because that conflicts with the dogmatic BS of the religion of Buddhism. And when I say the religion of Buddhism, what I'm talking about is a heap of mental midgets and fools. because these people are fools. They're just unintelligent. A true seeker has an open mind. It's like, well, you know, maybe my idiot teacher has been teaching me the wrong thing. All this time he's been teaching me that Buddhism teaches that there is no soul. But here you have hundreds of citations. Boom, 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 boom. Facts, logic galore. There is nowhere a denial of the soul within Buddhist doctrine. Maybe I was wrong the whole time. People don't have open mind. This is why there's wars and strife and, you know, every sort of unimaginable evil going on in the world, because people are caught up in their BS beliefs. They're caught up in these sicko religions, and they're all sick, quite frankly. Some are more sick than others, but they're all sick. Buddhism is no different. Well, Buddhism is a really peaceful religion. Not really, fundamentally. No. You really don't see them, you know, causing great wars or conflict. Well, they're very peaceful, you know. Buddhists are, you know, they're about meditation and petting your kitty cat and being nice to your neighbor. Buddhism is a hardcore monistic metaphysics about transcendence from the psychophysical. It is not, you know, this crazy sect of ethics and morality. See, when you remove the soul from original Buddhism, and I'm using the word Buddhism conventionally because the only time it was called something by its founder, Siddhartha Gautama, was Brahmayana, Path to the Absolute. This is not, when you remove the soul, you remove the notion of transcendence. You remove to even illogically think that there is liberation but nothing that attains it, that there is nirvana. Specifically, nibbana or nirvana is from the term nirvriti, which means to the stopping of turning. Literally is meaning unwinding or unbinding. The stopping of samsara. Samsara literally means sansarate, which means perpetual going round and round and round, i.e. bhava nubhava. Why am I speaking Pali? None of you know what I'm saying in ancient Pali, which is a dead language. It means becoming and again becoming. It is a transcendence liberation ontology. And, you know, the Pali verses are atta vasarati, the soul is charioteer. Atta sarana anana sarana, the soul as refuge with none other refuge. Atta vadipa, the soul is the light. The only thing that's called permanent in doctrine is the soul. And yet you have all these 99%, essentially, of these Buddhists, which are very unintelligent people, running around telling everybody, well, Buddhism is about being nice and ethical, you know. The ultimate nirvana is just like, flushing yourself down a cosmic toilet. You're just like flushed into oblivion, you know. This doesn't teach that anywhere within doctrine. The nonsense this is why religions are sick. This is why there's war and strife in the world, is because people have these crazy-ass belief systems. They're just always fighting and war. If you want to have a debate, and I've been doing this for decades now with these idiots, a debate on Buddhism, let's actually debate it based on doctrine, because it's not my beliefs or opinions or your beliefs or opinions. Let's actually go to the original source. Well, there are no original sources. Yeah, there are, because the Nikayas are mentioned on the Pillar Edict of King Ashoka. The actual ancient Pali texts are pre-sectarian. There's absolutely no denying that fact. They are pre-sectarian before these schisms manifested themselves. Christianity has schisms. I mean, you got the Baptists and the Mormons and all sorts of crazy-ass splinter groups of Christianity. You got what is the opposite? We got the Sufis over here, and what are the three things of Islam? They don't even believe Sufi is part of it. The Sufis, and then you have the Sharia, and it's just all these crazy religions and their crazy little offshoots. This is why people say, why don't you, are you an atheist? No, I'm not an atheist. I just have absolutely no... religion is secularized metaphysics for the intellectually profane. If that really upsets you, I'm so sorry, but it's a fact. I'm interested in the original article. And not what all these idiots, have been espousing. Literally for nearly 1,500 plus years, it's been about that long. These yellow-robed Terawadins, these nihilistic cretins have been teaching this no-soul nonsense, which has no basis in doctrine, is hyper-illogical. The notion of liberation without anybody that obtains it, paramum succum, ultimate bliss without something that attains it, it's ridiculous. Once you remove the soul, then you've got this sicko religion of ethics and morality and being nice to your neighbor, and, you know, it's a liberation ontology of transcendence. It has nothing to do with ethics and morality. It is an amoral monism. Let me repeat that again. If you don't know what monism, do a Google search on it. Monism, M-O-N-I-S-M. Amoral monism. It's not moral or immoral, it is amoral. Original Buddhism was an amoral, monistic, transcendence, liberation ontology. That's not my opinion either, that's a damn fact. As someone who's an expert in Pali, and the world's foremost expert on the definition of the Pali term anatta, or in Sanskrit you would call Anatman. Advaita Vedanta, for example, used the term Anatman extensively. Except nobody in Advaita Vedanta, they're actually generally a pretty smart group of people, nobody in Advaita Vedanta is stupid enough to think that due to the extensive use of the term Anatman within the Upadisa Sahasra and the Vivachura Muni of Advaita Vedanta, established by Sri Shankaracharya, it's pretty good, isn't it? None of those people are stupid enough to believe, well, that Advaita Vedanta forwards no-soul nonsense. The term is a netty term in reference to other things. This is not the soul, that's not the soul, this is not the soul. Only the stupid Buddhists are dumb enough to draw the fallacy of composition. Well, this is not the soul, that's not the soul, this is not the soul, therefore there is no soul. And no! You just put the stupid down. Put the stupid down. That's not doctrinally established anywhere. People literally don't know what apophaticism is. They don't know what neti is. They don't know what via negativa is. This is not the soul. That's not the soul. That's not the soul. That's not the soul. That is not a denial of the soul. That form of apophaticism is common to India. It's common to ancient Greece. Yet, unintelligent mental midgets well over 1,500 years ago came to the conclusion, Buddhism teaches there's no soul. There we have a doctrine of anatta, Anatman, which has no basis in doctrine. This is why religions are profane. The true definition, the original hardcore definition of a profane. By the way, download the article in the link below. Okay? I think you will like it. It's very pithy, very intelligent. It's hardcore. I think you'll like it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like these videos, click the link below. Any donation is greatly welcome. Thank you. Luxi Veritas.